When using our forces, we must seem inactive. We do not want to telegraph our intention to our opponent, which means don't let them know what you're doing before the attack actually arrives. So from here, if I bring my right hand back like this before I throw that punch, I've already told them long before the punch ever arrives what's going to happen. So instead, I need to utilize strategies that cloak, that disguise, that hide my actual attack. First is avoid any preliminary cocking actions. So if my fist is here and it wants to go to Zachary's nose, it doesn't need to go away from Zachary's nose before it goes towards Zachary's nose. Now this may seem obvious, but time and time again, even trained fighters, you'll see them do a little pump, okay? And even if it's just an inch, keep in mind that an inch away from them is actually 2 inches of extra distance, because I have to then what? I then have to travel that same inch again before I'm back to where I've started. So 1 inch back is actually 2 inches of distance. 2 inches and between two trained fighters, that is miles of time. So from here, no preliminary cocking, boom, I come straight in for the hit. Now with kicks, it's kind of tricky, because with a kick, often you'll need a certain amount of preliminary chambering in order to gain the angle necessary to arrive at the target. So for example, although if I just raise my leg here and kick, that may be ideal in terms of efficiency. There may be his knee or something like that that would protect and guard my access to his targets. So sometimes with the legs we will have to do some preliminary cocking, but we still minimize that. So for example, if I'm going to kick Zachary in the stomach, instead of bringing my foot and heel back towards me and chambering and then snapping forward into the kick, I simply minimize the chambering to just enough to be able to arrive at my target. And so in your training, constantly chip away and ask yourself, what is the smallest amount of movement I can make in order to gain the angle and the position in order to arrive at my target? And in doing so, chip away any unnecessary preliminary actions, because these will alert your opponent to what is coming. Sometimes the preliminary actions have nothing at all even to do with the actual strike. And again, you see this with kicks. It's not unusual at all to see someone drop their hands a little bit when they throw a kick. This is natural because the hands serve as a counterbalance. Well, it's not too often you'll see someone come in and drop their hands in order to throw a punch. So experience will tell your opponent that when your hands go down, that means your leg's coming up. So if you want a surefire way to let the guy know you're throwing a kick, hey, here it comes, just drop your hands down. Instead, if you're able to keep your hands up or in some type of movement here, and then the leg comes in, now you're not sending that telegraphic signal to your opponent. A more subtle form of telegraphing is, instead of cocking the action, we simply tense the muscle in anticipation of the action. A very common place you'll see this is in the neck and in the traps. A lot of times right before the punch comes, you'll just see that little tension right there as they stabilize and they get ready for the action. And so when you see this tension, that's a cue that that attack is coming. So we have to resist that temptation. We have to stay as relaxed as possible and only tense right at the moment before impact. So we're relaxed, boom, and that tension happens just to solidify for actual impact. So again, in your training, be diligent in making sure that you're not tensing muscles before it is necessary. And for that matter, make sure you're never tensing muscles that did not need to be flexed. If I'm going to throw a roundhouse kick, tightening up my biceps and my chest may make me look a little buffer for a moment, but it's going to do absolutely nothing to contribute to the speed and the effectiveness and the power of my kick. So doing this makes no sense at all. It wastes energy, and again, it alerts your opponent to your launching of your attack. Another thing that also telegraphs our action is our footwork. Footwork is very, very crucial because it allows us to close that distance between us and our opponent. So if I can't reach you with my back fist right now, I've got to move forward. or I've got to get you to move forward. But either way, that distance has to be closed. So if I move forward, now watch. That there is efficient footwork. Now watch what I'm going to do this time. You see that change in height? It's very common when people move forward or back that they raise up or down. This up and down type of thing creates a very obvious telegraphic motion. Background change laterally and up and down are much more visually obvious than the change that happens through depth. So in other words, they're not just seeing you, they're seeing the background behind you. And so what we need to do is be sensitive to that and minimize the amount of background change that happens around us. And by controlling and disciplining your body to move in a relaxed and efficient manner, you will minimize the amount of background change. Now your opponent consciously is not going to sit there and go, oh, the background changed, he must be coming at me. He'll just get that sort of sixth sense that, boy, here comes the attack. And what alerted him, though, was on a subconscious level, his brain's processing all these changes that are going on in the background. So simply minimize the lateral and the vertical component of your movement, and you will do a lot to eliminate the changes in your background, thus, again, disguising your attack more efficiently. Another way that we can disguise our attack is to be sensitive to what's called line of sight. Line of sight simply is where the guy is looking, it's easier for him to see your attack. So for example, if I want to do a direct punch to Zachary's face, if I start right from here, he's going to see it coming fairly quick because his vision is already there. But if I slide up and I bring my right knee up, it's natural for him, you see that slight little motion he had going backward? Because he's starting to feel and respond to the energy of me coming into that kick. But what's also happening is his line of sight is going to now start dropping down to my foot just a little bit. A trained fighter isn't going to sit there and just stare at the foot, but it's still going to catch a little bit of a gaze. And right after his gaze is caught, just slightly misdirected by my right foot, then my right hand comes in. And so by changing where his sight is, where his mind is, I can make my attack less telegraphic because I've redirected his attention. And another concept that we can utilize is to approach at angles which are more obscure and flanking angles that are more difficult for him to see to begin with. So for example, I'm here. As I come in with my right hand, my left leg just came with a roundhouse kick to the back of his thigh. First off, you'll notice that I didn't do a dramatic change in my body position. That way, again, I'm trying to keep my background as consistent as possible. But what I'm doing by coming with that left leg is I'm doing two things. One is I'm down low, which is his line of sight is up high right now. But the other thing is by coming around more to an obscure angle over to the flank, it's harder for him to actually see. Now, once I've distracted him through pain, then I might be able to access targets that are more on a center line and more direct because now he's been distracted. Anytime your opponent's mind can be moved to a different direction, that gains an opportunity for you to gain entry because his attention now has been drawn elsewhere.